What's up, my beautiful freedom-loving friend? Hey, if you are in fact a freedom lover, then I want you to know you are a dangerous extremist. I think it's laughable, a little bit terrifying, that our current administration is trying to label people with dissenting point of views as not only dangerous extremists, but now domestic terrorists. So, and certainly one of their talking points is if you question the, thing you do when you vote, the results of that, then you are absolutely a dangerous extremist. You are a terrorist. You are destroying our democracy, says the leftist politicians when someone else is doing it. Now, I personally believe free and open speech is important. Part of upholding a true democracy is having elections, for sure. And a more fundamental part of having a true democracy is having free speech, which entitles you to question or affirm elections. Now, if we just fast forward into a world where you say like, oh yeah, people voted and like it was maybe not an accurate result. What if you couldn't talk about it? Then something going wrong could never be corrected because you're not allowed to talk about it. That's why I think being able to talk about it is important, and I think it's absurd that our friends, the thought police all over the place, are trying to suppress any kind of discussion. Now, today, I want to take you through a couple of videos looking at the hypocrisy of the leftist politicians who say you can never, ever, ever question the results of you-know-what. To start with, taking a clip from Tucker Carlson last night, and that clip we're going to see are some useful idiot from some propaganda network interviewing Kamala Harris. The short interview, just, 30 seconds, but it sets the stage for what we're going to see next. Let's take a look.
If you want to know what the Biden administration is really thinking, listen to the guy with the comb over in the anchor chair at NBC. Here is his exchange with Kamala Harris, the sitting vice president, yesterday.
I like Tucker.
Not quite 20 years after 9/11, the Capitol came under attack from domestic terrorists. I began by asking the vice president about how over 2 decades our focus has had to shift from foreign terror to the threat from within.
I think it is very dangerous, and I think it is very harmful, and it makes us weaker. So you look at everything from the fact that there are 11 people right now running for Secretary of State, the keepers of the integrity of the voting system of their state, who are election deniers.
So the whole context of this discussion with Madam Vice President is surrounding 9/11, terrorism. And then they're putting that parallel with, well, now 20 years after 9/11, domestic terrorism is as big of a threat. Madam Vice President, what are your thoughts on this domestic terrorism that's as big of a threat as the psychotic attackers from 9/11? And she goes right into, we have election deniers.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's a real thing.
What I'm scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
She just said that not her president, but the president before she was on the ticket, she's saying he was an illegitimate president? Well, good thing that's not dangerous extremist domestic terrorism, because it's not when she said it. Let's take a look at more leftist politicians openly denying the results of what happens when people vote.
It's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Biden absolutely agrees. And Jimmy Carter, some would say Biden's exceeded him as being a worse president.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016.
Trump didn't win the election in 2016. That's some interesting denial. Let's hear more.
He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
Wait, Hillary just denied the results of the 2016 election? Does that make her a dangerous domestic terrorist? No, she's on the left. Cool. The hypocrisy. It's just like if someone has a genuine, earnest perspective, and I could imagine maybe there's a world where someone has the earnest perspective of sorry, it's monkeypox. If you question the results of election, that's dangerous for the democracy. If that's someone's earnest point of view, then they become principled in that point of view, and it's their point of view across the board, no matter the situation. But we don't see principled people here. Instead of principled people, we see hypocrisy from these people. And the hypocrisy is, it's okay for me to question the results when it's like, didn't go the way I want, which, by the way, maybe we fabricated some false evidence, but when the results go the way I want, it is not okay to question it. I think it's more important to be a principled person rather than a person of hypocrisy. By the way, a principled person would say, it didn't go the way I want, but guess what? My principles don't change. They're the same all across the board. I have the same principles, same earnest perspectives if things go my way or if they don't go my way.
Fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
It's a lot of domestic terrorism all in one clip.
In that sense, it's illegitimate.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he knows he didn't.
How scary does she look? How'd you like to wake up to that every day? That's why we know Bill, he's aging pretty rapidly. Let's take a look at another clip of the president who's won the most popular vote in U.S. history.
And Al Gore won that election.
Now so far, Hunter's dad has denied the results of 2 elections. Dude, it's weird how he is the very thing he's accusing other people of being.
Whatever, he might not ever know it.
I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
A pretty valid concern. It's important that there's integrity in our elections. So I think our friend Crazy Bernie Sanders, he has a very valid concern. But again, a principled person would have that concern no matter who's running and no matter what the result is. It's an important concern to be addressed regardless of the result, in my opinion. But of course, I don't live in a swamp, so maybe I'm just ignorant. Maybe you're ignorant. What's wrong with us? Oh, and here's Stacey Abrams. She lost the 2018 race for the governor of Georgia. I think she's now running for something in Georgia again. I don't know if it's governor or Senate, but here she is.
The final tally and the inauguration and the situation we find ourselves in, I do have one very affirmative statement to make. We won.
She actually lost, unless you're a dangerous extremist where you're questioning the actual result.
Voter suppression? Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia.
It's great to see Kamala actually say something coherent, even though it's hypocritical, where she's not just like, hey, yeah, we need to do what we always do because the time to do such things is the time to do that which we've always done. It's like you literally said nothing. At least be Hippocratic, but get right to the point. She did a good job right there. Well done, Madam Vice President. Now here's woke late-night propagandist Stephen Colbert giving a platform to someone destroying our democracy.
Notably, did not concede. Okay, you acknowledged that he won, but you did not concede.
Correct.
5 months later, do you still feel like your opponent won through voter suppression?
Yes. Georgia voters did not have their votes counted. They were not allowed to cast votes. They had their votes discarded.
Now, personally, I have the nuances of the governor race in Georgia in 2018. I have no information. Was there something funny going on, or is she being a sore loser? I don't know. But the point is the principle. If your point of view is funny business can happen and we need to protect against it, that needs to be held all across the board. But now we find ourselves living in strange times where the thought police don't allow people on the right. By the way, anybody on the right, they consider someone who's not on the extreme left. You could normally be like, hey, dude, I lean left, I'm a liberal. But they're like, no, you're on the right compared to where we've gone. So they don't allow anybody on what they consider the right to voice what these people themselves had voiced time and time again over the years. It's a strange time with the thought police making sure we don't do that. So with that said, that's the point of today's video. I just wanted to enlighten ourselves into what the people calling you and I dangerous extremists for questioning things. I wanted to show how they have done the very thing that they're trying to forbid us from doing. Why is that important? Because as Martin Luther King Jr. once said, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. So if someone is acting tyrannical, the only way they can control you or I is if we allow them to. And obedience is the permission slip that we hand them over the sovereignty of our beings. But as Gandhi once said, when the state becomes lawless or corrupt, one has a sacred duty to disobey. And when we disobey tyrants, and we can see they're tyrants because they're holding the calling card of hypocrisy rather than being a principled person, we retain the sovereignty over our own being when we disobey them, be non-compliant with them, and therefore compliant to the greatest version of truth that we can be connected to. And because the thought police are getting more and more forceful, I think it's important to remind ourselves our voice matters, and being dedicated to the greatest version of truth that we can, that's impossible. When we do that, humanity wins, because nobody can control you that you don't give permission to. And we keep our permission by being delightfully non-compliant with that which does not have our best interest in mind. So with that said, I think the ultimate goal of this video and this channel is to inspire you and I to be a little bit more unapologetically free and brave each and every day. We've seen some hypocrisy. We've seen what tyrants have done plenty that they try to forbid us from doing, label us, smear us. So now we get to see that and better make up our own minds how we're going to live. Are we going to be free, or are we going to be enslaved through our own compliance? The choice is yours. So I would say, let me know what you think about all the funny business that does or doesn't happen in our voting processes, and what you think about these tyrants and how they've done the very thing that they now forbid. But the thought police are watching the comments section, so just be aware of that. Until next time, my friend, most importantly, stay free.